All right, well, you don't have your webcam fired up then?
No, because I thought that we were going to show the slide.
All right, well then, I'll just do this. And,
Are you going to share your screen with me, or?
okay, how do I do that?
Greetings, this is Arun Rao, the Passenger Rail Manager at Wisconsin DOT. Per request from WisARP, I am happy to give an update on passenger rail plans and projects discussed at the October WisARP meeting.
First question is, how do you like working at home as opposed to working in the office? Are you getting things done with less interruptions, or how's that working out, Dad?
It's working out well so far. Yeah, it's been working okay. I have access to everything here, so no complaints so far.
Okay.
First, I'd like to provide an update on service suspensions due to COVID-19. The Hiawatha service is down to one round trip daily. That's a 6:15 a.m. Departure from Milwaukee southbound Monday through Friday, and the 5:08 p.m. departure from Chicago. On weekends, that morning departure from Milwaukee is the 8:05 a.m. departure from Milwaukee, and then that same 5:08 p.m. departure from Chicago. To supplement this, the Empire Builder has been opened up to local Hiawatha passengers, adding stops at Sturtevant. So this creates two round trip daily options on the corridor. Ridership is extremely low, and this service that's being provided is intended to provide for any essential travel that needs to occur. The Amtrak Thruway Interstate 41 bus service has been reduced to one round trip daily, so one round trip was temporarily suspended due to COVID-19. Further suspension is a possibility given that there is one round trip Lamers bus service still running on that corridor. So we are at one round trip Amtrak Thruway I-41 bus that there may be further suspensions there.
So the I-41 was two round trips a day.
Correct.
I missed that one.
As you all know, the Hiawatha expansion to 10 round trips continues to move forward. It has faced some challenges, implementation, and these include removal of those two key projects in Illinois, which was the connection track in Glenview from the Metro to the UP for CP freight. And the second was a third track near Rondout, near Lake Forest, Illinois. So we're working with railroad stakeholders to find alternative projects to those two projects. Now, that adds sufficient track capacity that have the same benefit in mitigating freight delays as those two projects did. And of course, the other challenge to implementation is a large enough federal grant program. But despite those challenges, there has been significant progress as well as ongoing work to advance towards implementation. First, incremental build of infrastructure requirements through recent grant awards has helped move the project forward, and I'll go into a little more detail on those grant projects. And second, we are continuing the analysis of infrastructure alternatives to the projects in Illinois, and this includes doing rail traffic controller capacity simulation modeling, working with the railroads to complete that, to identify alternative infrastructure projects to those two projects that were removed from consideration. So this process is going to continue for the next 1 to 2 months approximately. The next steps after that analysis is completed would be to environmentally clear any new newly identified infrastructure, and then come to agreement with the host railroads on that infrastructure. And then the project would be ready for a federal grant for final design and construction, and moving to implementation of adding those frequencies up to 10 round trips daily.
All right, let's go back to the top of the screen. The challenge is the implementation. So that was last summer. This is April of 2020 now. So has the negotiating process been this difficult?
It is an iterative process, starting with our consultants completing an RTC analysis, coming up with potential solutions, and then having that reviewed by the host railroads. There's more than one railroad, and it's a back and forth process. And then the railroads need to do an in-depth review on their end of the RTC modeling. So that has taken some time.
Are you going to have like another public hearing, an environmental impact public hearing and all that?
So once we identify the additional infrastructure projects, we'll get a clear picture on what type of environmental clearance is appropriate for that, and then we would move forward with that. And that will have, any environmental clearance will have a public process associated with it.
Okay, so
public involvement.
So that public process, the public involvement, the public hearing, is that going to take place in the state of Illinois, or will that happen in, say, Milwaukee?
I mean, that will the public involvement process will include both Illinois and Wisconsin for that. And it's too early to talk about the details of that right now. We're just focused on identifying what alternative projects we can identify with the railroad to move the project forward, and then the next step will be to do the necessary environmental clearance on those.
Okay. The 2019, you do know it's 2020, right?
Yes.
You said 2019. Well, of course, the airport rail station.
All of these grant awards were in 2019, except for the last one here.
Now, you talked about the Milwaukee Airport rail station in October in Madison.
Yeah, so, as I mentioned, progress on the previous slide towards moving this project forward, we've now been selected for 4 federal grants for the Hiawatha service in 2019 and in 2020. And that is very significant. These are very significant projects that are going to produce real results and advance the whole process forward. The first was in 2019. We were selected for an award for the Milwaukee Airport Rail Station expansion. That's a $10.1 million project that adds a second platform and overhead access and elevator towers to that station, and creates additional railroad capacity and reliability by allowing both freight trains and passenger trains to be dispatched on either track, rather than having passenger trains always on one track. And then improving accessibility and safety at the station, and avoiding all instances where passengers have to cross a small crossing onto an emergency platform, which really is just a pad to get onto a train, to board a train when the train is on the other track due to maintenance activities now. So this will avoid that. And then it's also one of the projects that's required for any increase in frequencies on the Hiawatha service. So this project is now in the final design phase. You can see there's already renderings of the type of improvements. These are very conceptual. They are going to change, but you can get an idea of what we're talking about here in that bottom right picture on the slide, with the 2 elevator and stairway towers, the overhead fully enclosed bridge, and that second platform over there on the west side.
So as I look at your picture of the airport station, is that a sidewalk that's going to connect from the parking lot direct to the south side of the station?
There is a service road that you see just south of the station building there. That's an existing service road.
Okay, so that's not going to be a paved walk for people to just avoid going inside the station?
No, but there is a paved walk just to the
There is one to the north of the
north of the station building, yeah, so towards the bottom of the photo. It's not in the photo, but there is a paved walkway there.
Okay.
Also, as part of that grant was a CTC signaling installation. In these two separate projects were combined into one grant. The CTC signaling installation in Milwaukee, that's upgrading between what's called cutoff, which is a point 1.8 miles west of the Milwaukee Intermodal Station, through the Milwaukee Intermodal Station, upgrading the signaling there to centralized traffic control signaling. It's currently ABS signaling, so this will improve reliability, safety, and enable a modest speed increase through the area there for both freight and passenger. That's a $5.2 million project, and it is also one of the projects required to increase frequencies.
So when the trains exit the intermodal station heading south, after that curve, they're on CTC right away, is that correct? Going towards Chicago. As soon as they do that curve and they go over the Milwaukee River.
Then CTC starts, yeah.
CTC is immediately in place there.
South of the bridge there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, next slide.
Are we getting rid of the old Amfleet and Horizon cars?
Yes, we are. Which brings us to the next two grant awards. As I mentioned, there was four: the Milwaukee Airport Rail Station, the signalization, and we received a federal-state partnership for state of good repair from the FRA for next-generation single-level equipment acquisition for the Hiawatha service. So, as part of the existing ongoing procurement that Illinois DOT is doing for the Midwest states, the Hiawatha is going to be receiving 6 coaches. That left the other 6 coaches and cab units as the Amtrak legacy equipment. So WisARP put in a grant application for 6 coaches and 3 cabs of next generation single level equipment, so that the Hiawatha service can be completely equipped with new equipment, and we're not in a situation where we have one of the sets being operated with Amtrak legacy equipment and exposed to those additional costs there. So we have a $39 million project, a $28 million grant from the FRA that adds 6 coaches and 3 cabs to the Midwest pool of new equipment for use on the Hiawatha service. So again, after this grant, the Hiawatha will be completely equipped with next generation single level equipment. This will improve reliability and accessibility, and also lower maintenance costs, and it will add up to 58 additional seats to Hiawatha trains.
And that'll be pulled with the SC44 Charger.
Pulled with the SC44 Charger. You can see a depiction of new equipment there, the bottom train rendering. That you can see the cab car that has essentially the same nose as a Charger locomotive, but you can also see where the windows are, indicating where the passenger seating is in that car. And that's the kind of equipment that we're going to be getting. Now, obviously, that livery is Caltrans, so we'll be using the Midwest new equipment livery, but that is the cab car that you see there.
What about bicycle access?
There will be, I believe, 3 bike racks on each unit, including the cab car.
And on each coach unit.
Each coach, yep.
Oh, nice.
So there will be more bike racks available than currently is today. There's currently space for 15 bikes in the old converted
FP40s.
FP40 locomotives, MPCUs, and so this will increase that bike capacity.
So that means I don't have to aggravate my torn rotator cuff handing a bike up to an Amtrak staff member.
Right, you'll just have to carry it on the train through the regular coach door yourself and then put it in the bike rack, which will be adjacent to the vestibule.
Nice. ADA accessibility?
Yes, that's another big improvement with this equipment is that it's going to significantly improve accessibility on the Hiawatha service.
That all sounds awesome, dude. Tell me about Muskego Yard.
So most recently, since the October WisARP meeting, just a few weeks ago, WisDOT was notified that we were selected for a FRA CRISI 2019 grant. And CRISI stands for Consolidated Railroad Safety and Infrastructure Improvement Program. And we had applied for the Muskego Yard Freight Bypass of Milwaukee Intermodal Station project. That's a $54 million project. It will enable freight trains to bypass Milwaukee Intermodal Station. It'll create 2 new mainline CTC signalized through tracks with 25-mile-an-hour freight speeds and new or upgraded bridges through the yard. It will add capacity for additional passenger trains at the Milwaukee Intermodal Station because of the reduced freight traffic. And it is a project that is required for increasing frequencies on the Hiawatha service. So we are very excited to have been selected for this very pivotal project for passenger rail in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I bet Canadian Pacific is pretty happy about that award also.
Yeah, yeah.
Since the last time you splashed a map in front of us, there are several additions to this map,
Yeah.
to the legend, marks on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me.
Okay, so the other major effort we have is, of course, the Twin Cities-Milwaukee-Chicago TCMC project to add a second daily regional round trip between Chicago, Milwaukee, La Crosse, and the Twin Cities and all stations in between. And getting to the question on the map, we view this as really sort of a multimodal backbone for the state, providing a significant transportation improvement for both rural and urban communities, and enabling shuttle connections to expand the reach of the improvement. On the map, you'll see potential shuttle connections from Eau Claire feeding into Toma for eastbound traffic to Milwaukee and Chicago, and then Madison connecting to Columbus to connect trains to both the Twin Cities or to Chicago if someone desired in Madison. And so these connections are really facilitated by the additional regional trip because of the additional schedule options that provides and also the additional reliability that makes connections more feasible. And you'll also see connection at La Crosse to Rochester and Mayo Clinic. That connection is actually in place for the Empire Builder, and that would be expanded potentially to connect to these trains as well. With these connections, this service reached 60% of Wisconsin's population, 3.3 million of 5.7 million, within 30, and that's population within 30 miles of a TCMC station or 15 miles of a TCMC connecting shuttle.
Let's talk about the individual stops for the shuttle here, if we can. The Madison shuttle, obviously we know where the Columbus station is. Where's the Madison terminal of that shuttle? Where's that going to be? Do you know?
These are identified as conceptual potential shuttle connections to the TCMC when it's implemented. So the exact details of the stop locations within these communities has definitely not been determined or identified.
Okay.
That will be done through a process that will start really after we get final design and construction going of the TCMC.
Okay, that's good to know. So is it a fair question to ask, are these going to be Amtrak buses, or is WisDOT or Amtrak going to hire out services?
There's a couple of different ways, depending on the connection, that you can implement these shuttles. So, one is similar to the way we are implementing the I-41 Amtrak Thruway service, which is simply through our Amtrak Hiawatha service contract. And that is a Amtrak contracted service. So Amtrak then subcontracts with an operator to provide that. So that is an Amtrak Thruway service. The other option is through potentially 5311 intercity bus program contracted through the state, or another private mechanism to do that, similar to what's happening in Rochester, where there is a private shuttle company that has entered into an agreement with Amtrak to provide that connection from the Empire Builder.
Okay, and that's Rochester to La Crosse Station.
Correct, yep.
Okay, so I'm guessing the shuttle to Eau Claire, you would have the same answer.
Yep, these are conceptual, they're potential, they're not set in stone yet. We need to do some demand analysis to determine the feasibility, but these are conceptual and are fairly easy connections to implement.
Okay.
And that capture significant additional population.
That's a good comment there. All right, one last question about the Eau Claire shuttle. Are there going to be 4 shuttles a day, one for each train that arrives at Toma? So that would include the 2 Empire Builder trains. Or is the Eau Claire shuttle just going to be for the TCMC connection?
That's a great question, but again, we're not at that point yet. I mean, all that would be evaluated, the number of shuttles and the number of connections, as we complete that analysis after we get the final design and construction funding. So that will be evaluated in more detail in terms of the number of connections.
Okay. I made you think there, didn't I?
Yeah. But it's really, this is, I mean, you can see that this is about, it's not just about trains, it's about multimodal connectivity for rural and urban Wisconsin, and creating a functional transportation network.
That's outstanding.
We've made quite a bit of progress since our October WisARP meeting on the TCMC. Just as a quick review, the progress to date, obviously we have the feasibility study completed, operations analysis and infrastructure needs have been identified and completed. Concept design and cost estimates of those railroad improvements have been completed. We've completed purpose and need alternatives analysis and initial public outreach for the project. And most recently, this year, WisDOT and MnDOT jointly submitted a grant application for federal funds for assistance with operating support for the first 3 years of service if this project moved forward. And so that grant is called the Restoration and Enhancements Grant Program, which is administered through the Federal Railroad Administration. Just like all of the other grants, it is a limited sum of funds available, and it's a discretionary program, which means we have to compete for those limited funds. So WisDOT and MnDOT decided to be proactive and apply for that funding so that we have more cost certainty in our proposals of whether to implement this or not moving forward. That program covers 80% of operating costs of any service for the first year of operation of the new service, and 60% the second year and 40% the third year. So it really is, it's federal funding to help states with the startup of enhanced or restored passenger rail service.
One of the questions that was asked, our friends in Minnesota have been saying that there's a new service plan coming forward. Is that part of the progress to date on the TCMC?
So the current work in progress, next on the slide, is completing the service plan. And that's exactly what that is. We anticipate that will be completed and ready for public review in late summer, maybe perhaps the August timeframe, according to the current schedule, assuming no delays. We are also completing railroad coordination with CP being the primary host railroad here for the majority of the route. That coordination with CP has started and is underway now. And we'll work with them to come to an agreement on the infrastructure projects. And then finally, we are also completing environmental clearance of those infrastructure projects that have been identified so far, so that they're ready for the final design and construction phase. Currently, right now, that environmental work that's going on is the archaeological and historic reviews. That's going to be followed by wetland, threatened and endangered species, and noise and vibration analysis.
Any major changes on that service plan compared to, say, a year ago?
Nothing major. It's conceptually, it's still an additional regional round trip that's designed to complement the Empire Builder, but also provide some connectivity to other services. Still looking at roughly 4 hours apart from the Empire Builder. So more or less conceptually still the same service. A couple of the options that we're digging into right now is, of course, there's one option that is an extension of the Hiawatha service, and that would not require an additional slot between Milwaukee and Chicago, because we would just be extending an existing Hiawatha train as the TCMC. And another option is having an independent TCMC train, so that would represent an additional slot between Chicago and Milwaukee.
So you're not opening up the project to 10 Hiawathas and a TCMC, are you?
No. So that additional slot between Milwaukee and Chicago, if that came first and the 10 round trips came after, that would be subsumed by the 10 round trips, and it would then be an extension of one of those.
Anything else you want to add per this slide?
The next steps, if the states decide to implement the service, would be to secure the state matching funds for a federal grant, and then complete and submit a federal grant application for final design and construction, potentially in 2020.
Okay, hopefully in 2020? So
well, we'll get to, you'll see on the next slide too, on the last slide there, we can talk about that.
Your next slide, the collection of cities, counties, and other groups that have gone on record saying they support the TCMC. You've assembled quite an impressive list here.
I was very happy with the letters of support for our restoration enhancement grant. It was, it's a really broad level of support, overwhelming. So I'd like to acknowledge the outreach that has occurred from communities and organizations across the state. Resolutions that have been passed include, in the past 6 months, include the City of Portage, the City of Wisconsin Dells, the City of Toma, and the City of Eau Claire. County resolutions include La Crosse County, and regarding the Restoration and Enhancements grant that MnDOT and WisDOT submitted, the grant application for that operating support for the TCMC, we received quite a few letters of support that we were able to include in that grant application, including from the cities of Portage, Wisconsin Dells Visitors and Convention Bureau, Toma Chamber, La Crosse County, La Crosse Area Development Corporation, La Crosse Area Planning Committee, City of Columbus, City of Portage, Southeastern Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission, Ramsey County Regional Railroad Authority, Great River Railroad Commission, Amtrak, Mississippi River Regional Planning Commission, and the Eau Claire Chamber of Commerce. So really have seen a lot of outreach and participation and interest from the communities. And from the community's perspective, what we've heard a lot is that this is an economic issue as well as mobility issue in terms of helping these communities attract and retain employees and residences and businesses, and also support the existing local businesses, and then of course the mobility benefits for these rural and urban communities.
Yeah, this is a great list. I'm serious when I say this is something that I wanted to get into, and this is an awesome start. But I think we can do better, and I hope to help drive that. Like, for example, on your county resolutions, you don't have Columbus County, you don't have Dodge County, you don't have Dane County, and we know people from those counties are going to ride the TCMC if they're not already riding the Empire Builder. And then we can outline peripheral counties for all the other stops as well, doing the same thing.
There are upcoming federal funding opportunities for passenger rail projects in 2020, including the FRA Consolidated Railroad Infrastructure and Safety Improvement Program for 2020, the 2020 appropriations. There will be $325 million available for capital projects in that program, as well as we expect another stimulus bill to be in the works. The infrastructure-focused stimulus bill is not moving forward yet at this point, but at some point in the relatively near future, we expect to see some sort of stimulus infrastructure bill. And so these funding opportunities would be the vehicles that we could apply for funding to implement the TCMC service, essentially final design and construction of the required railroad improvements needed. With that, I certainly hope that you are all safe and well, and look forward to updating all of you in person in hopefully the near future. In the meantime, we will keep you posted on developments.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Arun for taking time out of his day to do this for us. Things are going to continue going on, and the ambiguity of the COVID-19 thing in particular could present challenges where you least expect it. Yeah, I'm sure you won't be lacking in news or things to do this summer.
Yeah.
All right, Dad, back to Daddy daycare, okay?